Welcome to Envato Tuts Plus Premium. This course is titled Creating Vector Art, and this lesson is Helpful Plugins. Now, when you're working with the drawing program, the native tools are great. It's going to help you if you master each of those. You won't obviously use all the tools in any application. I know with me within Adobe Illustrator, I maybe use 5% of the tools they offer in there because frankly there's a lot of tools I just will never need or use within my established creative process. Now there's one helpful plugin that I use within Adobe Illustrator, and that plugin, you're going to see me using this all the time in this video, and that plugin is called Vector Scribe. It's an absolutely brilliant plugin. The plugin contains four actual tools within it, only two of which are ones that I utilize on a daily basis, and that's because it fits the creative process that I utilize whether I'm doing illustration or design, and I'm going to show you those two tools within the Vector Scribe plugin and how you can utilize them. The artwork you're looking at now is the brand character I created for Vector Scribe, and yes, I use their plugins to create this artwork for them. So this kind of gives you a peek behind the creative process for that. And that's what we're going to jump into now with our illustration. Is I'm going to show you how you can utilize these plugins within your own creative process. Now, as we move forward with this illustration, you're going to see me use some distinct plugins, and these plugins come from a plugin called Vector Scribe, and it consists of four tools actually: the Dynamic Shapes tool, which is this one, the Dynamic Corners tool, this one, Path Scribe tool, and this one, the Dynamic Measuring tool. Now, the only two tools that I pretty much use all the time are the Path Scribe tool and the Dynamic Corners tool. So those are going to be the two that I'll show you in this tutorial and how to use them. It all works with the specific process we're going through here. So as you can see, we built the flames in the head. I built some of the other content out using the same methodology. And right now we're going to go ahead and we're going to create this wing shape here. And we're going to do that by, of course, using the pen tool, and once again keeping the clockwork method in mind. We'll go ahead and continue to build our artwork. Wherever there's a point gets a point, so we're going to start this over again. So we're going to start right here, start laying down our path. Where there's a point gets a point. Now, the first part of the plugin, the tool of the plugin I use is Path Scribe. It's this one. And it has its own palette. You can see it right here, the Path Scribe palette. And on the Path Scribe palette, there's different functions on here. And these are all point control methods, and I'm going to be showing you a few of those as well. One really nice one is this one, which is a Smart Remove, which is an incredible feature to have. So with the Path Scribe tool, it allows you to avoid even having to mess with any of the anchor points here. You can literally click on a path and just pull it out. So like I covered previously, it's like molding clay of sorts. And that's how this tool works. It allows you to push and pull until you get your Bezier curves the way you want. Once you have that, you'll just want to fix any type of anchor point that should be smooth like that, and that's how you create this. So these plugins will work in context of building your overall art. They'll just make creating your art a lot easier and go a lot smoother. Now the other feature that's part of the PathScribe tool within VectorScribe. So the plugin is called VectorScribe. The specific tool I'm focusing on right now within that plugin is PathScribe. And that's what you just saw me do, is use PathScribe. Now, one of the features in PathScribe is this feature where you can select a point. And in Adobe, if you use Adobe's built-in method of removing an anchor point, there's a couple different ways you can do it. You can grab this tool right here, which is the delete anchor point tool, and simply click on that. But you can see it destroys your shape. You lose the continuity of the shape you had built. So unless that doesn't matter, it's not very useful. So if we go back, we select this anchor point. You can also use this, which is remove selected anchor points. And if you click that, once again, it'll destroy your shape. So this is where the feature in the plugin comes in nice. Within the PathScribe tool on their palette, you have this Smart Remove point. So if I click this, so we have this point selected. When I click this, watch what happens. It retains the original shape you have. Now, this is within reason, of course. And when I say within reason, the best way to demonstrate that is if I create a square shape like this. Now, a square needs 4 anchor points to make the square. So if I decide to go Smart Remove on one of these anchor points, this is the limitation of the plugin, and it's a math thing. A square needs 4 anchor points, so you really aren't going to be able to get a square by smart removing that, because that's an unreasonable task. So that's the exception. But if you're doing a more, wrong tool. If you're doing a more organic shape, let's say you're creating some shape like this. And this really is nothing. I'm just doing this to demonstrate. So this is some nebulous shape we created, and for whatever reason you've decided, you know what, I really don't need this anchor point. You can go Smart Remove and it will retain the shape. If we undo that, once again, if you go remove from Adobe's menu, it screws up your shape. So that's the power of the Smart Remove feature within the PathScribe tool of VectorScribe plugin. And that helps as you go along building your shapes. But in terms of this one, we have the shape we want. So we're going to continue building here. Another feature that I use all the time, and this is just standard in Adobe Illustrator, is the Pathfinder. The Pathfinder, if you think of it like a cookie cutter, that's the easiest metaphor I've thought of to use to describe it. So we have this shape and we have the original part of the wing shape here. If I clone this shape, now in Adobe Illustrator, I have key commands I've custom set up, and one of the key commands I've set up is for the F3 key. I've assigned it to be a clone key. So I just select whatever shape, hit F3, and I now have a clone of that shape. And that was created using an action that does these two commands, Command C and Command F, and I attached it to a script which is attached to the key F3, and it just makes doing that a lot faster. So I have that shape selected, it's on top with this new shape, and using Pathfinder, I'm just going to punch this out to create the final shape I want. And that's how I'm going to go about creating the rest of this wing. And at the end of this, we're going to go back to the Vector Scribe plugin, and we're going to use the dynamic round corner to detail this out to get it specifically the way we want it. Once again, I'll clone these just so you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to colorize them, and we're going to fuse them together to one shape. Select that and cookie cut it out. And we're going to repeat that a couple more times. So this is part of illustration that doesn't fit too well within the context of a video kind of showing a process, because really there isn't anything glamorous about this. It's just you're basically following what you've predetermined to do through your drawing. That's why drawing is important. It will assist you as you build and make things go faster. Some of you might be thinking, why did I decide to create a winged head dude? I'm not sure. I just thought it looked kind of cool. And I figured if I'm doing a video to show people some illustration techniques in Vector, might as well have fun and create something that's just fun. So we're almost there. So we have most of the wing content done. There we go. Once again, wherever there's a point, gets a point. Those are no-brainers. And using the Path Scribe tool, bend it into shape. There. So we have most of the core artwork done for these wings. Now, this next part, we're going to turn Smart Guides back on. And we're going to do that because I want to hit right where this intersect was, and having Smart Guides on tells me where that is, so that'll be where my first point goes. And I'll come down here, it'll tell me that I'm right on the path here, and then I just simply pull out my Bezier handle to create this shape. Clone the background wing part, and then using intersect, I create the new shape. So that's how we're going to create these interior winged elements. I want to go right where this intersect is, right there. Clone the shape, intersect to get what we need. Once you get used to working this way, it really does speed up. Over time, your build time speeds will greatly increase, but the nice thing about it is your precision and craftsmanship are going to improve as well. So that is the core elements for this entire wing shape. Once again, we're not worrying about color at this point. We'll handle color once we have the wholesale of our paths done and completed. But now we're going to focus on the dynamic corners tool. And we're going to bring up this right here. Now what this does is, I'm going to demonstrate once again on a square, is if I have the dynamic corners tool selected, you can go into any point and you can just pull it to whatever radius you want. Now if you really want to set it, we're going to undo this last one. Let's say you go, well, I want it absolutely 12 points. Well, you can go like this and then click that, and then you get 12 points. So that's the nice thing about that. These are dynamic, meaning you can always go back and pull them back out if you don't want those on. So once you have a point selected, size selected, I mean, you can literally just click each corner and it'll apply the last sizing that you either used or plugged in. So that makes it nice. You can do it that way. Not only that, you can just have a whole shape and you can go apply to shape. You can do it that way as well. Now another thing you can do is, these are just rounded corners. You can do negative corners where you pull in like this. So there's all kinds of shapes you can achieve if you just think about it in a different way. And you can also do kind of a bevel looking corner like this. So that's how that works. That's the dynamic corners tool. Now the way I use this tool all the time is, we're going to put it back on round, is I go into areas like this. Like the wing's great. I love how the wing's looking. It's exactly the way I wanted it, but these look too knife shapey. A wing really isn't that sharp at the end. So what I'm going to do is, I'm just going to add some nice rounds to them. So you can see that going on here. We're going to zoom in a little bit so you can see what's going on a little better. So you can see how I added that round. Now if I select the dynamic corners tool, I can just touch these other corners now and it'll apply the same radius to those as well. And this is how I use the dynamic corners tool to detail out certain content, such as this. I think it's ideal for this specific part of the illustration because it makes the wings look far better now, in my opinion. Not so sharp and edgy. So this works great if you're doing a logo design, because you can go in and put subtle rounds on the very sharp vertices and it really buttons up a design nicely. So that's how I use the round tool within the context of illustration, but it applies to design so much too, so you can use it for that as well. Now let's say I decide later on, as long as I don't edit the shape, I can always go back to the dynamic rounds corner tool and pull it back out. So that's kind of cool that you have that flexibility. Now the limitation of this, however, is, and I should point this out, because once you mess with something in a certain way, you lose the dynamic attributes of it. So if I go copy, paste, and make a clone, just so I don't destroy my original art, and then let's say I decide for whatever reason that I want to add another element, kind of fuse it to this. So we're gonna add this detail to the wing shape because we just think that's gonna look better. Well, that's great, but if I go back to the dynamic corners tool, you can see I still have the editability. When you have the tool selected, anywhere you've used that tool, it'll show you where you've used it. You can see these blue dots here. But on this one, I no longer have that editability. It's now made it permanent. You've basically, like in Illustrator, you've expanded it, so you can't go back now. You've lose the dynamic attributes. So that's just one thing you want to be aware of as you work. So you always have that flexibility as you build. So those are the plugins. The plugin that I highly recommend is the Vector Scribe plugin, and the two tools within that are the dynamic corners tool that I use and the Path Scribe tool that I use. Now there's two other tools. It comes with 4 tools in that one plugin, but I don't even use them that much, but they're great tools too. If you want to see more info on this, just visit astutegraphics.com, and look forward to talking with you in the next video.